All right. No, you can't touch this. Wah. Episode. I know nobody knows that. I was big, man. If you were a teenager in the '80s in New York, house was huge. It's funny, right? Because there was club and there was house. Club is what they played on the radio. House is what they played in the clubs. So it was always a little confusing. It definitely, if you weren't going out to clubs anyway. So like deep house was like you would go to certain clubs like Limelight had like deep house. It was like more beats and no dome 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 dome. Anyway, episode 863. Oh yeah, there were weeks where I went to a club 2 or 3 times a week in the '80s. You would go on a Friday and a Saturday, and forget about it. If Monday was a holiday, then you went to a club. If you had the money, if you had or if you had someone who was going to treat you, or if you knew someone at the door, or if you I remember once we snuck in and man, it's crazy. New York is such a crazy place, man. All right, let's see what we got here. We found 2 wheat cents in yesterday's video. That was great. And so these are. I had three. I got three roll. Look at that. What is that? Oh, okay. I can't tell. Sorry. I got 3 rolls. No. I got 4 rolls. I'm sorry. 4 rolls of bank wrapped penny rolls from my bank when I went there last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it is now. And that's it. Today, tomorrow, we'll do the last roll. That's a nice, really shiny move these things around. That's a shiny Lincoln Memorial we got there. I'll take that. And a shiny shield. We got a shiny Lincoln Memorial zinc and a shiny shield so far. Now, are we gonna find another? Are we gonna find another? We found 11 copper pennies, right? 2 of them were wheats yesterday. Are we gonna find another? 88. Another 11 copper pennies and a wheat cent? Probably not. Probably not. Campaign number 1, we got a dirty one. We got a dirty one. Yeah, New York was bananas, man. There were a lot of gangs in New York. Gangs were a big thing. And that was it, really. Gangs were a big thing. You're better off just staying home, being home was boring. 1995, there were not everybody had. You had to have money to have video games. That Nintendo was like even in the when it first came out was like over $100, and the average income was like, after taxes maybe you made 300. You had to pay rent, $600-700, $500-600. So you got something like a Nintendo, you got it for Christmas. That was it. Not even your birthday. Unless your parents had some cheese, they were, they made a little bit more than the average person. And maybe you had stuff. And if you had stuff that the other kids didn't have, you had to be careful, man. People would, you invited your friends over to the house to play, they would rob you. Your friends would rob you, man. People didn't have it, If you had something that they didn't have, they would rob you, man. People got robbed all the time in New York. That was a big thing, getting vicked. That's what they call it, getting vicked. Oh, You heard what happened to this one? He got vicked. Yep. Someone went into his crib and they, that was the hard reality. So you had to be a little extra careful. I'm gonna look at that under the loop, but looking for the close AM on the 92. For living in the city, anyway. For living in the city. Yeah, this one has some really nice. I think it's mechanical. Yeah, it's mechanical doubling. I think it is. If you lived in some place like Pennsylvania or where everybody knew each other, I'm sure things were a little different. I said a little different, not completely different, but a little different. All right, another shine shield. Here goes another copper penny. A 60D. That's the smaller large day. So we even got a variety. 60 Denver. Nice. And we got another one, 82. That's a beautiful 82. That's a beautiful 82. So anyway, I got out of New York the first chance I got. I mean, when I say the first chance, I mean I lived in New York. I went to college in New York. I got 9 years of college. I did the minimum 12 credits for like it took me 6 years to get my it took me 7 years to get my undergraduate. I started in 96 and I graduated in, oh no, it didn't take me 7 years. I'm sorry. Why did I say it took me 96 to 2000. No, it took me, I was like, where am I getting these? I went to 3 years. Um, I went to Pratt Institute for 3 years after high school and I dropped out. And then I went back in 96 and I did 4 years. So that's the 7. And I couldn't transfer all my credits. I transferred most of my credits from, I had 60, almost 70 credits from Pratt Institute. They took most of them. And then I was there for 4 years. And I was lucky enough to get into one master's program. And and then I went overboard. I remember there was 1 year I took 21, whatever the maximum was that they allowed you to take. I took it. I don't know why I did it. I took summer classes. I don't know why I did that for. I just, and I had to I had to get permission to do it. I was just super, super into it. And I got licensed before I even graduated. It was the last year. 2001 was the last year. And you had to have applied before like December or November. And so I for the licensing exam, social work licensing exam. So I applied for it in like October, took the test in January, and I passed by 1 point. And I was the only person, I think, in like the school's history to have passed the licensing exam. Then I found out afterwards that a lot of people failed the licensing exam. That most people actually failed the licensing exam their first time around. Most, like over 50%. And I passed it while I was still in college. And I started working 2 jobs right away, a part-time and a full-time in 2002, the year I met my wife. And I was out, man. Bought a house like instantaneous. So I bought a house. As soon as I had 6 months of they told me at the bank, you have to have 6 months of working history, and to get a loan. And as soon as I had 6 months, that's it. I bought my house. Where I buy it in Newark, like a big dope. I didn't know nothing about nothing. All I knew, that's it. I went to school for 9 years. I drove a cab for 3.5 years. I drove an ambulance for 3 years, and that's really all I knew. And but the first chance I got out of New York, and I went to Newark, which was horrible. But my lifestyle, even even though I was a social worker, I was still a little bit dumb from my way of living was still a little wild from living in growing up in New York. All right, that's Copper Penny number. I think that's 6. That's 6 with the 60 Denver and the 82. That's 6. And then I bought houses in Reading, and I moved to Reading, and then my wife was tired of living apart from me, so that, and the rest is history. All the lines. And it was a transition, coming out to Pennsylvania was a transition, even though the places where Reading was pretty wild and I was pretty wild. So in that sense, kind of fit in. But as time went on and I got older, and obviously me and my wife, got together, that, I found Christ. It wasn't until years later that I found Christ was always with me, but I turned towards Christ. I always turned away from Christ. That's Copper Penny number 8, 7, 1990. And that's it, started to live differently. Look at that under the loop. Wow. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is on the reverse. Probably nothing. Probably mechanical in nature. All right. I'll put it with the other shiny Lincoln Zincs. But I'm glad I got out of New York. It wasn't for me. 1968 Denver. That's a nice looking one. That's number 8. That's not bad. 8 copper pennies is not bad. We got 8 copper. 2 of them are varieties, and then we got our shiny shields and our shiny Lincoln Memorial. There's another shiny. A lot of shiny shields. Almost looks like copper, right? Like a weird copper pen. I bet you it's zinc, though. It's not. It's zinc. Yeah, 88. Another 88. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I talk about random things that come into my brain. If you're from the inner city, you know, if you're from Philly, you're from Los Angeles, if you're from a rough, you know, area and you're in your 50s, then, you know, in any age, I guess, you know, a lot of violence and stuff like that, then you could relate to what I'm talking about. But I started the video talking about house, and I guess that was the fun part of being young in New York, was going to clubs, you know. I just wanted to have fun, you know. I didn't want to know about violence or anything like that. But violence was just, it was just around, and poverty brings out violence. That's the bottom line. And of course, I was not in a my grandmother, God rest her soul, on my father's side was um I think she was probably the only spiritual person in my life. And she passed away early, and you know, she wasn't around as much as I would have liked. But no one else really was spiritual, or I didn't know what that even meant. Even though I went to Catholic school, even in Catholic school, they weren't spiritual, you know. I don't even think they believed in Christ, the people who I went to school with, you know, Catholic school with, you know. They never spoke to me about Christ like he was. They spoke about Christ in Cap when I was young, like if he would, like the same way you would the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, or Santa Claus, you know. And so that's how I took it, you know, that he wasn't real. Wasn't until I met someone years later um, that God sent someone into my life to explain to me and to show me how to pray, and right, and through prayer is where we get connected to Christ. So someone showed me how to pray, and that was where my I built started to build my relationship with Christ, was through prayer. But someone had they never showed me how to pray. They taught me the prayers, but which I'm grateful for, because I guess it's something I would have had to do for 12 years to remember. To be honest with you, I'm not the smartest person in the world. So anyway, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.